Did you know that the Seattle Seahawks have the most efficient edge rusher in the entire NFL, just short of Micah Parsons? How's Boye Mafe getting it done? Well, in this episode of the Hawks Nest, I'm going to show you and why you should get very, very excited about this kid's ever-increasing upside as his ceiling just keeps going higher and higher and higher. Just before the start of the season, I went back and looked at Boye Mafe's rookie year with the Seattle Seahawks, where he was good and where he had some room for improvement. And it was very clear when reviewing the tape as Boye Mafe from day one was an outstanding run defender for your Seattle Seahawks. He brought everything to the position that you could ask for in that area of his game. He was strong and could root down and set the edge with the best of them. His pursuit skills were top notch. He was very aware in space. His motor revved high. Hell, he was even a good tackler. The place that left a lot to be desired was in the pass rush ability. In that, it was very limited. Mafe on the season only was able to garner 2 sacks, not very many pressures, and he more often than not kept going to his one-trick pony move, which was the double hand swipe where he tries to knock the tackle's hands off of him so he can then get to the edge, and it just wasn't all that very effective. So when BT Jordan was signed by the Seattle Seahawks this offseason, the pass rush coach extraordinaire, many of us Hawk fans were very optimistic that this guy was going to be able to help take Boye Mafe's game to the next level. And it would appear that that is indeed the case, as Mafe is light years from where he was as a pass rusher this year, at least early on. We find him here now just about quarter mark of the way through the season, sitting at 34% as his pass rush win rate. That is second in the entire National Football League for all edges, with the exception of one Mr. Micah Parsons, who himself looks like he's on a Defensive Player of the Year award trajectory. So that is a mighty fine number to be looking at on this guy. He has been outstanding in that part of his game, far beyond where he was last year. Jordan is making it work. But as I say, don't take my word for it on this. Let's dive onto the tape and let me show you how Boye Mafe is kicking ass, taking names, and scratching the surface potentially of stardom. All right, let's take our first look here at Boye Mafe. And on this first rep, I think it's going to show you why we don't have a lot of tape of Mafe here in the Rams game, nor the week after in the Lions game, which he completely missed. On this rep, he's going to come off the edge and just get sort of gotten the better of by the right tackle. And he loses his feet, almost looks like maybe he collides with his own guy. And then he just sort of gets rolled up on by the right tackle. I don't think this is a dirty play or anything like that. Just this is what will happen sometimes in football. But when he did get up after this play, he was a little bit gimpy. Not at his best, I think, through the rest of the game. He only got about 17 reps as a pass rusher in total in this game. And so we don't have a lot of snaps to take away from this initial contest, but maybe that's for the better because I think we all wish we could just burn that week 1 tape. There was one rep here against the Rams where he was able to create a hurry, and on this play you're going to get to see the benefits of the wide 9 scheme alignment here, or a 3-4 outside linebacker alignment, where you can see the distance between him and the tackle and how hard naturally it's going to be for that tackle to get out to the edge of the arc to meet Boye Mafe before Boye Mafe has rounded it and gotten to his quarterback. But this isn't just about the quickness, dip, bend, which are on display on this rep from Boye Mafe. It's also a little bit of that uptick in that technical game that I'm thinking he's going to start to bring a little bit more to play this year. He comes down with the downward chop first to keep the hands cleared off of him initially. And then once he's got the pathway and the angle to the quarterback, he comes back up with the rip to keep that tackle cemented up on that shoulder so he can round about over 2 to get to the quarterback. Now, Stafford played a great game, got the ball out of his hands super quick, and it's only about a 5-yard gain here, but Mafe got to him just about as quickly as you could be asking him to get. So Mafe gets beat up a little bit in that Rams game, misses the Lions game, getting that knee right, and then comes back the next week against the Carolina Panthers and really does, in my opinion, some of his best work. He's going up against 2 in large part in this game. Ike Ekwonu, who's the former top 10 first-round pick from a couple of years ago, picked ahead of Charles Cross in that first round. And this snap is going to look very similar to the last one. You see the wide alignment. You actually have here Boye Mafe with his hand in the dirt, which shows you that he can do that if you need him to do it. But the rep's going to look very similar from the last in that he's going to try to get to the edge. And as he's trying to get the edge, he's once again going to bring down that downward chop, that new move that he didn't unveil very often last year. I think it's a BT Jordan special, I think is what I'm going to try to call that one. And what he does in bringing down that chop is he gains control of Ekawanu to be able to then gather a path towards the quarterback. And I'm going to freeze this right about right here, where you can see that he has locked that arm in with that downward chop. And what he's done at that point, for lack of a better term, is basically get control of Ekawanu here, like a jiu-jitsu move. And when he does that, he now doesn't have to worry about Ekawanu having some other way to be able to hold him back from being able to get around, use that bend, getting around the arc of the pocket to then get to the quarterback and then create the pressure. Unfortunately, here Dalton's able to complete this pass because of a blown coverage on the back end. But once again, another snap from Mafe showing a little bit of a technical uptick in his game. A couple plays later here against the Carolina Panthers, and Boye Mafe again is going to create another pressure. Again, he's going to do it by getting around the edge of the arc, though he's going to take a little bit of a different pathway to get there on this rep. He's going to utilize those hands that he's starting to utilize ever more this season, but he's going to do something that also is new on the tape this year. That is chaining pass rush moves together. Many pass rushers will just step on up to the offensive line and they'll say, you know what I'm going to do on this play? I'm going to run as fast as I can around the edge of the arc. Or they'll say, hey, you know what I'm going to do on this play? I'm going to do a swim move. And that's all they've got. They've got one plan in play, and if that plan gets neutralized by the offensive lineman, they're done on that play, absent having a high motor, and even then they can be just still done. What Mafe's doing, though, here in this year is he's chaining different moves together over the course of a single play to free himself up. That is what he does here off the snap. Now, he's got the quickness, he's got the bend always to call upon. When he starts to do these other things, it's going to make him damn near impossible at times to deal with as an offensive lineman, especially if you're not particularly athletic. The first thing that he's going to do after getting a quick start here is he's going to catch Ekawanu in the middle of his kick step drop, and then suddenly he's going to plant to the inside, like he's going to go cross face on Ekawanu. And Ekawanu bites. He plants down with that right foot, sits down, and that's just what Boye Mafe was hoping he was going to do, because now Boye Mafe can go back to the double hand swipe. I'm telling you, this is his special power. This was the move he went to too often last year, but it just didn't have as much success because he had no other moves to call upon, so offensive linemen could kind of sit on it, right? Like a hitter that can only hit a fastball and no curve, you're going to get a lot of curve balls from pitchers, and that's just what he got last year. So he's showing this already, these different other abilities and ways to get to the quarterback, and he does so here, going back now to that double hand swipe, but it's first that jab step inside, which then gets Ekawanu to plant, which gets those feet stopped moving, and then he can get the double hand swipe in there, then he can get back to that nice dip and bend around the edge to get back towards the quarterback. Dalton's able to throw this ball away at the last second, but it's a very nice pressure. Another double hand swipe special here from Boye Mafe, and he hits Ekawanu so hard with it that he leaves Icky looking like he's got his toes over the edge of a cliff and he's just about to fall over the other side. Mafe is clear as quickly as you can be post-snap on this play, and he'd have a free run and probably a pretty brutal hit that he'd be able to put on Dalton here, if not for the fact that Myles Adams has also completely beasted his way up through the middle of the pocket, splitting a double team and forcing Andy Dalton to throw this ball a little bit earlier than he wanted to. But if Myles Adams doesn't get in there and create that quick pressure, Mafe is beasting around that corner, and look out. Another double hand swipe rep win here that creates a pressure for Mafe. And this one is really his trademark down to a T, because Mafe comes off the snap with that quickness, gets his hands up first. He's attacking half of a man, as you ask these pass rushers to do, going for that outside shoulder of Ekawanu. He gets both of his arms in around on that left arm, drugged down to where he can rip the left arm out, and then he always seems to have this innate ability to be able to bounce off the block once he's ripped down those arms to create a little bit of separation between him and the tackle so that then he has a pathway towards the quarterback. What he does here is exactly that. He's got a pressure en route, but once again, like the last play I showed, he's got a teammate in Uchenna Nwosu who's also creating that kind of quick pressure from his side of things. I think Dalton's rushed here a little bit, just throws the ball out quickly into the flat, into his running back, just get it out of my hands before I get nailed. And he gets a little bit of a completion, but still a rep win and a very fast rep win here from Boye Mafe. As I had said earlier, that's not just the double hand swipe that Mafe goes to in order to find his success early on this year so far. He's also doing a much better job at improving getting inside and using that in his bag, because when you looked at last year, there was not a lot of him going inside. He wasn't particularly good on stunts or twists. He didn't utilize cross-face kind of moves like you would on a tackle from time to time when you get them to oversell to the outside. You were really looking for this part of his game to take a step forward, and thankfully it has, and it's a big part of the measure of success he's had so far because it keeps those guys honest on that double hand swipe move, as it did in Ekwanu's case throughout the course of this game. On this first rep, he's going to run what looks like kind of a twist to me. It doesn't look like a pure stunt because Reed just looks like he's sort of angling off the blocks. He doesn't look like he's doing a pure stunt back around to sort of end up taking up and being engaged with Ekwanu. And it's worked out to perfection here. Reed eats up two of the blockers inside. Mafe spins right through the inside of the A gap, and he's right on top of Dalton very quick after the snap. You can get a real feel for his quickness, his speed, and his athleticism on this play. In my opinion, this double hand swipe move I'm going to show you next could be the thing that helps to take Boye Mafe from a guy whose ceiling looked like when he was coming out of Minnesota as a guy who could be a upper level run defender with maybe 10 sacks a year being his ceiling once he gets into his prime, to a guy that could get into maybe the middle teens area. Because though he has a really good double hand swipe move to the outside, it's not as good to the inside, at least not at Minnesota and not early on here at Seattle. But on this play and throughout training camp, we were seeing some cut-ups of him utilizing it as well. He's starting to bring this on and put this into his bag as well. And if he can, he puts those tackles in a bind because they so often want to lean to that outside shoulder and take that double hand swipe away to that outside that now they open everything up to the inside, as Ekwanu does here. Another rep with Boye Mafe twisting, and another great rep here with his hand in the dirt, which I love to see. He's not just a guy that has to stand up. You always like that versatility. This is another rep which also shows off that defensive line acumen, which begins to grow with those games I was talking about. Because look at how Mario Edwards Jr. here doesn't simply come off the snap and really go in to try to engage into that left tackle. By doing that, he keeps the left guard on him. So if you have a left guard there who's trying to pick up a stunt and he sees Mario Edwards go right at the left tackle, he knows that's what's going on, and then he's going to look for Boye Mafe looping back inside. But because Edwards does slow play this a little bit, he creates that natural gap and opening there up the A gap, and because Boye Mafe is so quick and fast, as we showed a second ago, he can get through that gap and get the win and create the pressure. Great rep here. Another rep which is showing off this defensive line starting to grow by leaps and bounds, not just in the blitz game, but in their ability to be more effective with the front four. This rep's going to show off Boye Mafe's increased understanding of how teams will attack edges from time to time and how you can counter that. Because what he notices after the snap here is Ekwanu oversetting just a little bit too much, getting a little bit too wide out of his stance too quickly. And then the running back coming along to try to help out as well, showing off the obvious nature of the chip block that he's looking to bring. Mafe reads that while at the same time seeing out of the corner of his eye an opening there in the A gap and decides to loop this back inside. This is not a called stunt on this play. You can tell by Mario Edwards going a little bit back and forth that he's trying to get into that backfield as well and create some penetration on this play. This is Boye Mafe just feeling it. This is certainly not something that you would have seen from him in year one. This is where you see the growth from him and the understanding of don't just bang your head up against the brick wall in a particular play. Look and read it and go towards that pathway of least resistance. Another rep of Mafe stunting here, again showing that quickness, speed, athleticism. He is back here like a cat in Dalton's kitchen before he's even got the tuna out on the counter. Dalton has a two-step drop, not a 3, not a 5, but a two-step drop, and still manages to get the ball out of his hands before Mafe's able to bash him. But another great rep from Mafe showing off that physical ability. Does he have a high motor? Will he stay active throughout the course of a play, or will he just simply give up? Well, Mafe here on this play fighting all the way through. First starting out, trying off a move we saw earlier where he jab steps inside and then tries to go to that hand swipe. Ekwanu's on it on this one. Mafe keeps his hands active. Too often last year his hands would grow quiet after the initial rep. Stays with that motor revved up, stays with his head up looking towards Dalton, and is able to create the late pressure. All right, I've teased you enough. Let's get Boye Mafe's first sack of the year out of the way. And on this play, he's not exactly going to beat anybody heads up. He's going to be very quick off the line of scrimmage and athletic, as we've seen so far, but this play is actually a little bit more about diagnosing and reading things. You take those leaps forward in your second year, it's not just physically, but also from the shoulders up, and that is indeed what you're seeing on this play from Mafe as he reads this is not a run. This is going to be a play action, and he reads it true and quick. On this play, it seems like right from the jump. The Panthers are hoping here that this edge coming from the weak side is going to take the bait and is going to buy into it being a running play, because that will then draw them in right to the wham block from the tight end coming back across the formation. But Boye Mafe doesn't take the bait. He's right on top of Dalton for a nice, easy sack. Let's keep it on moving here to the Giants game this past Monday night, and seemingly another very tough matchup for Boye Mafe and another former top 10 first-round pick tackle from the draft 2 years ago, another guy selected just ahead of Charles Cross in Evan Neal out of Alabama. And Evan believes that he's going to be able to cut block Boye Mafe on this play. Silly man. Doesn't he know that's like trying to cut block a ghost? Mafe bounces right past his pitiful little attempt and gets right back into the backfield to create some real fast pressure. Boye Mafe does have a good amount of strength and power to his game. He's just so athletic and quick, he doesn't always have to call upon it. It's where you really see him in the run game try to use that more often than not. Here he is going to use it, and he's going to use it while also doing that same thing we saw him do against the Carolina Panthers in a couple of cut-ups back, being that he feels the chip block coming from the running back, and rather than leaning into that chip block, allowing it to then neutralize him and take him out of the play, he instead bounces inside and then turns this into sort of a semi-bull rush into the left tackle. And luckily for him, the left tackle has overset here, which is odd because the left tackle has running back help, so you think he'd stay a little bit more clearer to the inside, but he opens himself up and allows Mafe to show off that strength, push him into the backfield, and though Mafe's not able to get a hit or a sack on this play, he does force Daniel Jones out of the pocket and to scramble here. He just, I think, didn't realize he was that close to Daniel Jones, that he had created that much pressure and gotten back there so fast. It's that or the tackle's got his arm, because I can't figure why he doesn't pull the arm back to try to at least bring him down. So it's one of the two here. Sometimes a really good edge rusher can create production for the rest of the defensive front by creating light speed pressure just off of the snap, by then forcing that quarterback to move off of his spot. And that's just what Boye Mafe gets Daniel Jones to do here. Right off the snap, you see some of that first step quickness from Boye Mafe. Then he calls upon those hands that he can use and work from time to time, especially with that double hand swipe move that we've talked about already many times, and then he's got his direct pathway to Daniel Jones. Jones feels it for just a half second right before Mafe arrives, takes that step up into the pocket, right on into the waiting arms of one Mr. Bobby Wagner. The left tackle for the New York Giants really struggled with Boye Mafe's quickness to the edge of the arc and that dip and that bend, and you could feel that as this game progressed along when they had their reps going mano-a-mano, and you'll see it on this one as well, as he is going to just quite simply and purely beat him to the edge of that arc, get there with dip and quickness, and that tackle can't reach him. This is going to force Daniel Jones to be flushed from the pocket and right into the waiting arms of Miles Adams. Another sack on the back of Boye Mafe's quick pressure. Boye Mafe is so kind and generous to his elders, as once again he's going to help to give Bobby Wagner another sack on this play, and this is another Boye Mafe special. We've seen this a couple times before, haven't we? First step quickness, double hand swipe, a little bit of bounce on the end of it, to which he then gets into his dip and his bend around the arc, and usually he's got himself a direct pathway to the quarterback when he puts all those little moves together. And that's just what he's going to get here going up against Evan Neal. Shout out to Draymond Jones, who decided to chip in on this present for Bobby Wagner as he greets Boye Mafe at the quarterback, helping to push him up into the pocket, right into the arms of Bobby Wagner. And we only have in this game one sack for Boye Mafe that he's technically credited with, but I've just shown you 3 plays here back to back where he helped to make that sack happen for other players. On these last couple of rushes, I'm going to show you a final point of advancement I've noticed in Boye Mafe through the first couple of games, and that is in his ability to read the offensive lineman across from him. He wasn't doing a lot of that in year 1, but I'm definitely seeing him do it in year 2. And the way that this is going to show up here is that As I spoke about a couple of reps ago, this left tackle for the Giants is really struggling with the quickness and athleticism of Boye Mafe. He doesn't trust himself to be able to get out to the edge of the arc to meet Mafe. He's worried about him just beating him pure and simply out there, so he's working harder and harder as this game goes along to get out to that edge. And Mafe is reading that, and it's specifically this rep that really makes it crystal clear to Mafe that he's opening those hips up too quickly. I'll try to get a really quick, short, tight shot here where you can see the left tackle right at the moment where he is opening up those hips. And Mafe can feel that, where he's going from facing him to opening the hips. Why does he open the hips? To give him more width to Mafe, so it makes him more of a longer in width to get around to the quarterback. It makes it harder to get around. But what that also does is it throws off his anchor point. And Mafe reads this. So when we go to the next rep, Mafe is anticipating that he's going to throw those hips open. And the second he feels him start to throw those hips open, Mafe is going to hit him with a good hard bull rush. And it works perfectly timed to where Mafe hits him with that bull rush just as the hips open up. That gets the tackle in a position where then now he is on his heels rather than on his toes. Mafe's got all the strength, all the force, all the leverage in this situation now to walk that tackle exactly where he wants to walk him, throw him on his back, and then go make the sack. As I said about moments ago, Mafe absolutely has some top-notch strength and power that he can bring to the table from the position. He just doesn't have to call upon it a whole hell of a lot because he is so quick and athletic and bendy as well. But this kid has the full bag. The pass rush win rate statistic is a fairly new one, but that does not mean it does not have value, as coaches will oftentimes reference pressure numbers as being more important to them over the top of, let's say, sacks, which fans usually tend to favor a little bit more. Reason being is that oftentimes sacks are more built upon the supporting cast rather than the one individual player just going out there and doing the hard work all on his own. To give you an example of this, let's say you have an edge rusher come off the snap. He beats the tackle quickly. He's got a beeline towards the quarterback. The quarterback steps up into the pocket, into the waiting arms of a defensive tackle who didn't get a lot of push, but the quarterback just runs right into him. Now, did that defensive tackle beat the man across from him to get that sack, or did that edge rusher get him that sack? Well, the nice thing about the pass rush win rate is that it is pure as the driven snow, and that it quite simply measures, did you beat the man across from you in under 2.5 seconds? Yes or no? And in Boye Mafe's case, the answer has been yes, well over a third of the time this season at that 34% rate. And to put that number in perspective, this pass rush win rate statistic, as I said, has been going on for 6 years. Only 5 players have gone over 30% for an entire season. So if Boye can keep this up, he will keep this and help to keep this Seahawks pass rush fearsome. And beyond that, as I said before, be scratching his way on to stardom as one of the next emerging edge rushers in this sport. Get excited about where this defense is going, Seahawks fans. The young pups are starting to bite. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget. Go Hawks!